regulation. It is caught by Dyson. Can he get in? No, he cannot.
Yeah, I said it, we are. This is Rock Nation. Pledge your allegiance.
Welcome to episode 24. 24. I can't believe that. 24 of the Goal Line Stand. As always, Michael Washington here with Justin Arth. I don't want to say as always. I always say that, and it's like some days I'm not here. I don't know. Anyways, Justin Arth is with me, of course, normally. Anyways.
Yep. All
and,
but I think 1 week.
Yeah. Hey, we got a two-man panel to start off yet again here as we move away from the divisional round of the playoffs, which I think outside of like maybe one game, no, actually, I think every game pretty much went the way that we all kind of expected it to go. I had Buffalo over Kansas City, but that game was literally a coin flip. Every single year.
I can't even remember what I went at this point, but I think I went Buffalo over KC. So if that was the case, I went 3-1. Finally got back to 500 on my picks this year, so I'm 5-5.
Well, I mean, the first week I only had one loss, and the second week I only had one loss. So I mean, I'm not going to complain about that at all.
Hey, you're going pretty good.
We'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens here, though. Okay, we'll see what happens with this one. I got Baltimore and Detroit, so we'll get into that a little bit later on. Only picked Detroit. It's just an underdog hope more than anything. But we'll get to that a little bit. While we're on the divisional round, let's actually talk about that Buffalo and Kansas City game. Kansas City's been kind of the thorn in Buffalo's ass for the most part the last couple of years and in the playoffs. And I think the third time that these two have faced off, and Kansas City's kind of the upper hand in the playoffs, where Buffalo has won in the regular season.
Yep.
I want to talk about Josh Allen and his, I don't know, like maybe overratedness. I'm not sure how else to put it. That's basically what our people are saying. I have a very different take on this. I don't know where you stand with this as far as Josh Allen is concerned. I don't put this loss on Allen, in my opinion. Do you? I mean, or how do you look at this? Because I do not think this was Allen's fault at all.
Yeah, no, I think I'm laughing because I think you and I are in the minority of this. I mean, I just watched earlier today Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp destroy Dan Orlovsky for saying that this loss isn't Josh Allen's fault. Where in the world is a kicker missing a field goal or 2 or 3 drop passes the quarterback's fault when the dude shows up and scores 3 touchdowns in a game and makes play after play after play, puts the team in position to go win football games. And the only play that I guess you can look at Josh Allen and say he should have made was the play where he had a lineman being pushed into his hip pocket and missed Shakir wide open in the end zone. That's the only play you can look at Josh Allen and say, Josh, if you're great, you would have made the play, like Shannon Sharp said earlier today on First Take. It's like there's no reason to put blame on Josh Allen in this game. I like the way Dan Orlovsky said some stuff earlier. Every time Josh Allen plays Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen is either the best player on the field or the second best player on the field. And it's weird to say that the best player on the field that day or the second best player on the field that day loses the game. And I just think the difference of this game is Patrick Mahomes, although this is nothing to take away from Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see with my quarterback list later, depending on how that goes. But Patrick Mahomes still played great. But what separated in this game, in my opinion, is the fact that the Kansas City had guys like MVS and Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco make plays. Josh Allen, in a way, was kind of a one-man show. Stephon Diggs was nowhere and has been nowhere.
I'm so happy you brought up Stephon Diggs because to me, Diggs has been very vocal about wanting out of Buffalo and kind of pointing towards Josh Allen as being a problem and, all that stuff. But I hate using the word diva to describe wide receivers or vocal wide receivers because I think it's a misrepresentation. But this kind of behavior that he's, kind of viewed over the last couple of years has been very kind of, I don't want to use the word divish, but whatever you can use is kind of like maybe a lesser, volume term for that. And then he had 2 giant crucial drops in this game. Now, they were in the middle of the game, so it may not have necessarily changed the outcome. One of them stalled the drive at midfield or right around midfield. Wide open, hit him in the hands. It was a little high, but he made it. It was there. There was no reason for him to drop it.
Someone of his caliber should make a catch like that.
Exactly. And then there was another one going in the opposite direction, I think like in the third quarter, that would have been a guaranteed first down to continue the drive. They ended up not getting it, turning into a punt, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I look at those two big specific things because I look at Stephon Diggs' stat line. He had 3 receptions for 24 yards?
24 yards or something like that. And then I think he had 1 or 2 carries on the ground.
But he had 8 targets.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen was clearly targeting him, and maybe not all those, those 5, missed passes were all Stephon Diggs' fault. But whenever you see a huge discrepancy like that, you have to ask yourself, what is the cause of that? If you're targeting the receiver that much, you're obviously trying to get him involved. What is causing you to, whether it's lack of separation, lack of route running, what is the deal there? Because Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs have created tons of magic in the past. So there is no reason for this to be happening this late. But it all kind of started with all those little subtle online shots coming from Stephon Diggs and his brother. I hate saying that, but that does cause a disruption.
It does. But I'll take a little bit different angle from this too. I think because I saw some percentages of routes run by Stephon Diggs and stuff thrown up earlier on Twitter while I was at work today. And a lot of it was since Joe Brady took over, obviously the firing of their previous offensive coordinator, the types of and percentages of routes that he was running. Before Joe Brady, he was 35% of the routes he was running was in-breaking routes. After Joe Brady, that drastically dropped to about 24, 25%. And then you look at he was running maybe 10% of screens or short slants, things like that with the previous offensive coordinator. Now he's jumping up to with fades and slants and quick screens combining to 40 or 50%. And you look at a lot of that and you start to say, okay, is some of this, because this has kind of been the conversation in Buffalo for a while. Stephon Diggs is not involved in this offense. He's nowhere to be found. He's very vocal on the sidelines. He's very vocal on social media. He's very vocal in the locker room about being involved and being a mainstay of this team. And being a top receiver in the NFL and all this other kind of stuff. But there's a disconnect in how he fits in this offense. And so some of that is, okay, is it the angle you're taking of the distraction piece that's maybe getting in the way? But some of it's even the thought process of the organization around, can he create separation like he used to? Can he still make big plays? And because you haven't seen that out of Stephon in a while. In a way, I don't want to call him washed up because I don't think he's washed up by any stretch of the imagination. But it feels like this season that Stephon's maybe lost a little bit of a step. And I'm a Viking fan, so I love Stephon Diggs, or at least I did when he was Viking. And I think he's still one of the special players out there, can be. And the big question moving forward with Buffalo is obviously some people want to say, because now you go from a $16 million cap hit to a $47 million cap hit with Josh Allen next year. Stephon Diggs is very similar. There's a big cap hit with there, and everyone's talking about the Josh Allen restructuring. That probably still will happen. Quarterbacks now tend to do that. But you need to look at Stephon Diggs' contract and look at either restructuring or looking at trading, or you got to figure out if Stephon Diggs is truly a number one receiver. And this is where I wish I had AC on here to kind of break down the receiver stuff, because I'm not going to say I'm a receiver connoisseur. I just throw to him. But it's just, is Stephon Diggs truly a number one receiver? Because Shakir has been very similar statistically over the last maybe 5 or 6 weeks than what Stephon Diggs has done. And Stephon is technically their number one receiver, but is he truly number one?
Well, and here's the thing. Here's the biggest thing with Stephon Diggs, and you mentioned the cap hit. That's obviously a big thing too. But he's also 31, or turns 31, or he's on the other side of 30, which is where you start seeing the receivers kind of be shuffled out for some of the younger guys. I think Khalil Shakir is a great piece for this offense moving forward, but I do not see him in the Stephon Diggs type role. it's very likely Buffalo is going to probably draft a receiver in the first
they
round
need
this
to
year.
do it all guy. I think they need to do it all like guy that can truly develop into a number one.
And Josh Allen will definitely restructure his contract because I think he's going to look at what's going on with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City and see what the cap space is and want to try to win. So I think Josh Allen, for all that he is a smart enough quarterback to realize that it's going to be restructuring that is going to likely be what is going to be needed to get Buffalo over that hump. Now, whether or not they get over that hump is a different question because they did just pay $14.9 million to Von Miller, who literally recorded 0 sacks and 5 tackles all year. And that was his stat line.
Mm-hmm.
And he played in 14 games. So it's not even like you can blame it on injury where he played like 3 games. He played 14 games and that was his stat line. Yeah. And Von Miller is another piece where it may be statistically his worst. It is statistically his worst year ever, but has he lost it? Because he's an older player as well, and they signed him to a 8-year deal. I don't know what Buffalo plans on doing with some of the structure, but you take a look at this team, and you have to wonder if that window has closed now or is barely open.
Yeah, I would lean on the side of it's barely open because of who you have under center. But it just makes it extremely tough. And you're going to have to more look at the Baltimore mold of how they've kind of done things, where after you pay the quarterback, or again, what Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City is doing now, where you've paid the quarterback and that's a bigger salary cap hit taken there, you're going to have to start hitting on draft picks on defense. You're going to have to start hitting at draft picks at receiver and running back. And you're going to have to trust your scouting and development to bring in guys to do the exact opposite of what typically works, where, we hit big on the one quarterback, but we can pay everybody else around them, aka San Francisco, to do well and win Super Bowls or at least contend and compete. But it's going to have to be a lot more of you have to hit on a bunch of guys on defense like Kansas City has. You have to hit on guys on offense like Baltimore has, to be able to build around the cap hit of the quarterback. So it's just going to be tougher. And in reality, with the older roster that Buffalo has, I still think they're more of a Buffalo mold where you're just going to have to trust the quarterback to carry and hope you hit on some draft picks. And then with the older players, you have to hope that you get a true string of health in one of those, not necessarily odd seasons, but an odd season that you have a nice stretch of health where you can go make a run.
Buffalo's going to have to look at they're going to have to take a look at the Green Bay situation, and they're going to take a look at the Rams situation. You have that quarterback that's in place, and then you saw what happened around them this year. Green Bay's going to have a choice of Jordan Love. We'll talk about that right after this. And those young guys, those young pieces, Buffalo's going to have to find that mold. They're going to have to seriously study what those two teams have done in the last couple of years. Now the NFC is a little bit different because the NFC is a little bit weaker, so it's not like it's a level playing field because the AFC is so much stronger right now. But you have your franchise quarterback in Josh Allen. You need to find a piece. You have your draft picks. You didn't trade them, so you need to find a piece, especially at the wide receiver spot. I actually thought I was really impressed with the interior offensive line and the interior defensive line in this game because this is what killed them last year. They actually held their own this year against it. I felt that I felt that Coach why am I drawing a blank on who the coach is at Buffalo? What's his name? McDermott. I felt he abandoned the run a little too soon, though.
Yes, I agree.
Because they were really running the ball really well, and then it seemed like just because they fell behind, they forgot about it and just kind of was like, we're going to let Allen, sling the ball around and do his thing. I feel Buffalo needs to also reassess internally how they view this team because I feel like they ask too much of Josh Allen. I think they put a lot on his shoulders.
They do, but in reality, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But obviously, it's broke.
It's broke though.
It's broke come playoff time. So there needs to be at least a reevaluation on how you approach playoff games. But no, I think they abandoned the run too early. And again, the defensive injuries continue to plague this team.
Oh yeah, that was they were brutal on that. We didn't even mention that, but the defensive, they what was it? Top 4 pass rushers, linebackers, secondary, they were all out of everything. So,
but even then, you still look at some of the decisions that McDermott made. Obviously, the abandoning the run too soon is one of them. The fake punt with Damar Hamlin, I think, was another one because, again, if you're going to run the way of Josh Allen or bust, what was it, a 4th and 5, 4th and 4?
Something
Throw
like that,
Josh
yeah.
Allen back out on the field. Don't try to be cute and run the comeback player of the year, because everybody knows he's going to be comeback player of the year, on a punt fake, and it just worked absolutely horribly wrong. And then obviously things that McDermott and stuff can't control with the drop passes and
Right.
the plays that weren't made downfield that Patrick Mahomes had that Josh Allen didn't, and then the unfortunate missed kick. But in reality, the first field goal of the entire game was kind of foreshadowing. I don't know if you remember this, but Tony Romo even made like a kind of sly comment, was like, oh, he almost missed that one. And you can kind of tell the wind kind of shuffled the ball like close to being wide right before it snuck in, and that's essentially what happened on the final kick too. So yeah, I feel bad for Tyler Bass and all that, but man, it's just I don't think Buffalo can ever get over the hump just because I think everything's stacked against them. Like, Josh Allen plays amazing and you still can't pull one out.
Well, I mean, and it's a truth though, because I mean, back to the fake punt, like it reminds me of the Tyler Goodson decision, right? Like for the Colts the week before. Like, why are you not running a play in that crucial moment? With your best players on the field.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, just go out and put Josh Allen out there. He was averaging over 5 yards a rush at that point in time. Anyway,
I mean, even earlier in the game, they went for it on 4th and short and went a whole quarterback sneak thing where he didn't even sneak it up the middle. He decided to just pull it and create quarterback sweep and still got it. Like, just trust Josh Allen. Like he's a physical enough runner and a great enough player that more than likely he would have made the play. Because again, the only play that I don't think Allen made in this game was the Shakir missed touchdown where he had an offensive lineman being pushed in his lap, which he couldn't rotate the way that he wanted to get the velocity on it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there that are obviously like, they're talking about the play that right before the kick where Stephon Diggs or whoever it was open in the middle of the field, and I'm like, it's easy for us to analyze it from our standpoint here, whether you're Shannon Sharp or Stephen A. Smith, or like Shannon Sharp is to me is something that's like, you played football. You understand that just because you're open doesn't mean it's always A, open, and B, like it's necessarily seen. Like he's rolling to his right in that situation, kind of away from it, and they always tell you not to throw late back across the field. It's rule number 1 for a quarterback.
Jordan
It's
Love.
a big no-no. Jordan Love, exactly. So it reminds me so much of, like, it's so easy to criticize when you look at that, but even when
everybody's an armchair quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, even when you take a look at that screenshot, though, it's like there's a safety lurking there.
That's exactly my next point. Being in those situations, I actually threw a couple passes like that in the game I played this Saturday. And one of them ended up being a drop that I still think should have been a catch because I put it right on his chest. But it was dropped because I put it there and the defensive back is popping him because he's within 5 yards. So it's a tight enough window that a guy like me or an even greater guy like Josh Allen could be able to make a throw like that if he saw it. Yeah. But at the same time, there's no guarantee that you're securing the catch. But even then, you throw the ball away there. Yes, it forces the 4th down. You're missing the 3rd down conversion there, whatever. But you still got a minute 40 or 47 or whatever it was there. And maybe you Brett Favre but he couldn't even taken off there. So it's not throwing the ball away or throwing it towards the end zone to see if something can happen is not the worst decision in the world.
Yeah, and it's just funny to me because if he had done that and got it picked off, we're having a different conversation about it, obviously. You know what I mean? So
same conversation we'll probably have about Love later.
But, well, speaking about Jordan Love, we'll talk about him because the Green Bay Packers had made this game a game, which is what I thought was going to happen. I thought that there was a possibility that they might have actually have won, and I picked San Francisco, but I said last week that I think Green Bay could win this game. They were in position to do it. Jordan Love kind of faltered there down the stretch in the 4th quarter. Played brilliantly, I think, in the first 3 quarters. Looked really good overall. They have I don't want to say they have a decision because we know it's going to come. They're obviously going to give him a contract extension. It's definitely going to happen. The decision is going
an extra year on top of this anyway. Wasn't it like a 2-year controllable deal or something like that?
Well, I know that the deal that they are likely to do on May 1st is going to make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks or
Oh,
players, period,
okay.
in the history of football. Which I honestly feel like that's the smart decision. You hold on to him for 5 years. He comes in as his first full year as a starter, shows that he actually learned while he was sitting, for that
Mhm.
long period of time, and he got stronger as the season went on.
Yes.
And literally, he was only a couple plays away from bringing you guys to an NFC Championship game, which I would have loved to have seen in Detroit. But that's that sentimental thing. Like you got to cheer for the underdog, man. You have to.
Yeah.
But this game was a testament, I think, to how Green Bay has trusted the process over the years. They're way ahead of the curve. Now, here's the problem, though, and I asked this question because I'm not a Green Bay fan, but I asked this question for Green Bay fans.
Well, I'm a Viking fan, so maybe me answering it's not the greatest thing, but go
Well,
ahead.
I mean,
But I am wearing green, so hey, go
if
ahead.
if I get a perspective, at least it will be an honestly true perspective from a arch rival. Is this process though really should that be this trustworthy though? Because you had what was it, 22 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and you won 2 Super Bowls or however many years it was. It was insane amount of years. 27, almost 30 years worth of you know Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and you won 2 Super Bowls. Is this the correct process? Um, and should we expect this Green Bay team to be kind of like a regular season hero again, and then just falter in the playoffs every year?
Yeah, it's hard to say because obviously, for the last part of the question to become true,
Well, right, yeah,
Jordan
obviously.
Love's going to need to continue to prove that he can progress because it's the same kind of conversation we talk about C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or any of these other kind of young guys we talk about now, where they can have flashes or they can be as great as C.J. Stroud has, but what are you going to be once teams have film, like a lot of film on you and know your tendencies and know all that? And it's kind of the whole baseball analogy of rookies can come in and make a great debut or a great first month of a season, and then they're going to hit that slump because then everybody has film on you. You have to adjust. And if you come back from that, then you're typically going to continue to grow. So we're going to have to see how Jordan Love truly continues to grow and improve and mold his game. But no, I would say I trust Green Bay and how they evaluate quarterbacks and how they develop quarterbacks. And at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, yeah, you identified and traded for Brett Favre. You identified and drafted Aaron Rodgers. Now you've identified and drafted Jordan Love, and it was all kind of the same process. You sit behind somebody, develop, and go. And when you're in those situations and you're blessed to have those situations, you take advantage of it, because if you end up creating a third Hall of Fame quarterback here, or even if Jordan Love isn't Hall of Fame and he's just a Hall of very good, it still puts you in positions to go win a third Super Bowl. 2 Super Bowls in 22 years obviously isn't probably the greatest statistic, but there's also a lot of teams, aka Detroit or Minnesota or Buffalo in particular,
or Washington,
or teams that haven't even lifted a Super Bowl. So, 2 Super Bowls in 22 years still isn't bad. And most of those years you're still in the running to go do that. And it's because of the guy you got under center. So if you're able to control and develop quarterbacks the way that they do, I don't think the process is broke at all. I think you can trust that process and take it to the bank and continue to roll with that thing. The question then just becomes of it's always going to be the quote unquote rocky end where he'll go be a New York Jet at the end of it. We're 2 for 2 on that one. Jordan Love, aka the next New York Jet, and Aaron Rodgers, the next Viking, I guess.
Well, I mean, and obviously it's kind of a hypothetical question because it's just it's assumption based as to what Green Bay has done with Brett Favre, obviously, and Aaron Rodgers, down the stretch. So I was just saying in conjunction with those 2 quarterbacks in their careers, clearly 2 of a lot of people view them as 2 of the greatest of all time. So 2 Super Bowls in 30 some odd years is definitely disappointing, I would imagine, with those caliber quarterbacks.
Yes.
And I guess that would probably be why I think the narrative is a little bit different than normal than what you just mentioned, like with Minnesota and Washington and all that stuff. Like
but then
Detroit,
again,
Cincinnati,
just to throw things in to talk about my favorite two guys, obviously Brett Favre was the guy that got me into football, and then Drew Brees kind of become my favorite quarterback after that. So it's kind of like, all right, well, I'm a Viking and Falcon fan, so then I like the biggest rival quarterback, I guess. But Drew Brees, 15 years in New Orleans and only one ring to show for it too. So,
Right, yeah.
and again, how many times were they in the dance?
Yeah,
You got to
sure.
be in the dance to get the trophy.
Yep.
So, and to have that quarterback to get you to the dance is the minimum that you need to have. Again, a reason why Josh Allen doesn't need to be kicked out of Buffalo or sent wherever.
Yeah. They move on. They move on from Josh Allen. Buffalo is just going to be right back to being struggling to find stuff.
Yeah,
all
Ryan
over
Fitzpatrick
again.
needs to come out of retirement and go back and play in Buffalo if that happens.
Oh man, they cannot. They move on from Josh Allen. It's a huge mistake in my opinion. And honestly, I'm not even a huge Josh Allen fan. I mean, I see it with him though. You know, I see it with him. I don't like. I guess I don't like already determined prejudice or already determined opinions that can't be swayed one way or the other because you want to nitpick certain things to fit your narrative. Like, yes, there's things that Allen needs to improve on.
Mm-hmm.
He improved on a lot of those this year, but the turnovers were still a problem. They still are an issue.
Turnovers are a problem, but it's what AC says. It's who you are. Like,
right.
It is who he is. And he's one of the very few players, which Patrick Mahomes is another type of player, or Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers were other type of players that did this, where they could play out of the mistakes that they make.
Yep.
And Josh Allen's one of the few that do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why that type of stuff just kind of bothers me as well. Speaking of that, Brock Purdy, obviously San Francisco, great game-ending drive. Can't really complain about that at all. A lot of people were saying that it can't be done. A lot of people were saying that it wouldn't be done. It killed two birds with one stone. It allowed Brock Purdy to get over that little, to get over that little narrative, and it also helped Kyle Shanahan because they were down by 7 going into the fourth quarter, which is something that
1 in 30 now.
1 in 39, whatever it is. Good for him for getting over that hump, whatever. Sometimes I think they just find the most obscure stats and they're like, this is actually significant. And it's like, well, I mean, of those 38, how many were they down by 25? But San Francisco did it nonetheless. And they got to a point where they are in prime position to make it to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. Detroit's in their way, obviously, will beat Tampa Bay as well. What were your thoughts on this game? Because, like I said, I think you and I were probably one of the only two that really kind of expected it to be as close as it was, with Green Bay possibly almost winning it.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of bow tie all this together with kind of my thoughts on Jordan Love too, because this kind of is perfect segue to talk about the both of them. I think this game, similar to how the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen game, was a perfect representation of what happens when guys make plays for a great player and versus guys that don't make plays for a great player. I think this was the great conversation, or the great example of the Cam Newton conversation, a game manager versus game changer. Jordan Love is playing, or at least right now is playing, like a game changer. And he is the gunslinger that will go out and make all these wow plays, this, that, the other. Brock Purdy was your game manager that didn't make a mistake. Obviously, he played rough at times, and I think most of that's due to the weather and just trying to overthrow things and not make the mistake. And the pressure was there, which was kind of uncharacteristic of Purdy too. But the issue you have with the game changer is every once in a while, like I've been on this show multiple times. Anytime Jordan Love's in my list, what do I say? He's very Brett Favre, very Aaron Rodgers-esque. Well, what's the one thing Jordan Love hasn't done that Brett Favre has typically done? Brett Favre would always say, I want to make the wow plays that make you go, wow, that was amazing, and wow, that was terrible. As long as it was a wow play, he was okay with it. So, and Jordan Love finally pulled out the cardinal sin of saying, like, never throw across your body back to the middle of the field. And it was on a 1st down and 10, and you had 2 timeouts left, and you had plenty of time left on the clock to go make something happen. So you commit the cardinal sin there versus Brock Purdy had struggled with grip on the football and just trying to overthrow things. And we talk about like throwing it with a string, like not necessarily having conviction and throwing it, trying not to make a mistake. But he threw all that out of the window when the game had to go be won. And I thought that final drive was, and this isn't to say he's Tom Brady. So Brock Purdy haters, Brock Purdy supporters, anyone in between, like, don't say I'm calling him Tom Brady. But it was funny enough. It was very Brady-esque in terms of the drive that he did have. It was very methodical. It was whenever he needed to make a play, he made the play. And so I look at that and say, okay, there's something to build off of. Now there are questions that you do have because of everything that happened before that. And does that kind of lack of confidence and stuff continue? But no, I think it's the perfect example of a game manager versus a game changer, and one made the mistake and the game manager didn't make the mistake when he needed to step up and make the play.
The one thing that I'm going to say about this game here, when it comes to specifically Brock Purdy in this situation, it almost felt like this was a realism hit. This game kind of realized that there's pressure now.
Yeah.
And both him and Jordan Love both responded in a way that kind of exposed their inexperience, right? Because even though Purdy won this round last year, they literally did not rely on him to throw the ball 39 times. I think he threw the ball 39 times in this game. Yeah. And then he got hurt early in the NFC Championship game, so there's no way to really know how that game would have turned out for him, right? So I think that this game was kind of like, okay, this is the expectations, this is the pressure. Now it's on us both. Even though Jordan Love didn't have to play that way, I think he did. Yeah. You know, I think that was just, he put it on himself because Green Bay didn't belong there. Green Bay wasn't supposed to be there. You know,
it was time to shock the world.
Right.
And he wanted to go make a play that would shock the world, like the Mario Manningham type.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love did it for 3 quarters where he played that loose. And then I think that 4th quarter was kind of like, here's the pressure. Now for Purdy,
it was the exact opposite.
And for Purdy, it was the exact opposite. He was finally like, I think he had a Zen moment where he finally he took a deep breath, because I think he went, perfect on that last drive, right? He went 4 for 4.
6 for 7.
6 for 7.
Yeah.
Oh, 6 for 7. Okay, that's right. So he did have the one incompletion, but either way, it was almost perfect on that drive to get them down there to score the touchdown. Curtis has joined us as well. I think it's like a summoning thing. Like we say Brock Purdy's name and Curtis is summon type of situation. Curtis, we were just talking a little bit about obviously the Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, a little bit of the Green Bay San Francisco game, because I think everybody on the panel, for the most part, predicted a game to be a little bit closer than a lot of people expected. But really, I think it was me and Justin. I don't remember. I don't think you were here last week. Were you, Curtis?
No, I had sent you in my my picks. Yeah,
that we didn't get a chance to. I'm sorry, but
don't worry about it.
We had talked about that on the panel. Justin and I were the only two that kind of mentioned that we think Green Bay could win this game. Mm-hmm. You've been very vocal about a lot of things when it comes to Brock Purdy, because there is a lot of Brock Purdy supporters that are kind of slanting or embellishing a lot of things, which I think it happens with a lot of people every year, and it goes the opposite direction too with detractors, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of Josh Allen detractors are like they cherry pick certain things and are like, this is why he sucks, What were your thoughts on Purdy in this game? Because to me, I really don't think he played that bad, at least in the 4th quarter.
No, I agree. I actually, I agreed with you guys' take on last week's episode, and I felt the same way. Like, I felt Green Bay could have won, and if they were gonna lose, I felt it was gonna be close, just the way I saw them play the Cowboys. Green Bay wasn't supposed to make the playoffs, like Justin said. This was a rebuild year, and a bunch of no-name receivers, to be honest, you know what I mean? And they all came together great. But Purdy, I felt like he was a little shaky during the first half of the game, and then in the 4th quarter, just like you said, it was that last drive. was it like 6 minutes they had on the or 7 minutes they had on the clock, and they chewed up the entire clock. And it was no big chunk plays. It was all like 7, 8, 9. I think the longest play was like a 15-yard play. It was just first down after first down after first down.
It was the comeback to, or the deep out route or whatever, to Chris Conley.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Chris Conley comes out of
Shout out my
nowhere.
buddy Chris Conley. Throw with him in the offseason.
Nobody's heard of Chris Conley since the Jaguars in 2019, and but no, it's and just like you said, Jordan Love, he obviously got the ball back, and that the pressure, he bootlegged out to the right, and he just threw. I don't know what he was looking at. He wasn't even under duress when he threw that ball. Like, he just got around the pocket, flushed out, and he just chucked it. And it was just a bad throw. And Purdy looked poised, and he was very, very good in the win. Just like you said, 6 or 7 for like 60-some yards or something like that on that drive. It was very good, and it was definitely what the 49ers needed, because, I mean, now, granted, the 49ers missed a field goal earlier in the game, but that field goal that the Packers missed, they would have been up by 7. It would have definitely changed the tide of the game. And the 49ers needed to score a touchdown, or else, and the game was over. And the Packers just couldn't, they couldn't stop CMC, and they couldn't stop Purdy on that drive. And, to do it without Debo, for him being injured, that's definitely a good sign for 49ers fans, and for anybody that wants to say that Brock Purdy can't play without Debo Samuel.
Yeah. Two things about that last drive. And, again, Justin, I'm going to kind of, follow the wake of your Brady comment, not calling, him Brady by any means, but what he did on that last drive was literally what Brady did his entire career on that last drive.
Mm-hmm.
That Brady did the exact same things, 7, 8 yard dink and dunks to receivers you've never heard of, or receivers that you thought were MIA on the back of milk cartons.
Yep.
And the second thing is to me, there's never been a more disappointing wide receiver than Chris Conley. I'll
tell him that this summer.
It's a little bit of an exaggeration, Justin, but honestly, it's a little bit of an exaggeration. But this dude's workout regimen is insane.
Oh yeah,
he has the size and the speed. He was an absolute animal in college. I could have sworn that this guy's ceiling was as high as almost anybody, and for some reason it did not click. I don't know why, but if you do talk to him this summer, do let him know though that he does have a fan here. I wish that there was something more there, because I do like Chris Conley. I like him.
I think with him, a lot of it was just timing opportunity stuff. The conversations I've had with him, it just doesn't. I mean, he wasn't not necessarily mature enough, because he's a very mature guy, but wasn't mature enough in his career to handle what he was being asked to do in Jacksonville, and then it just kind of got away from him with timing opportunity stuff. But he's around in San Francisco and making plays now.
I was just going to say,
he's got
Samuel's out. He's going to have another opportunity coming up here. Him and Jawan Jennings in the championship game. Is it just me, or does it feel like all of America is just kind of rooting for Detroit right now?
Well, I talked to.
I know for you, you're being a Vikings fan, but
I think Detroit is now America's team, and obviously the America's team B, I guess, is Baltimore, because everyone's tired of seeing San Francisco, and everyone's definitely tired of seeing Kansas City, whether it's the Taylor Swift effect or just Kansas City being there every year.
I think it's probably just Kansas City being there every year, because we are weird people. Like, we hate seeing greatness all the time. Like, we just hate it. I think Curtis touched on it like a couple months ago. We were talking a little bit about it. Like, we get to a point where it's just like most people they're just like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of these guys. Oh, LOL, Kansas City wins, or LOL, New England wins, or whatever it may be. But for me, I'm just like, I'm going to appreciate it, while we see it, because what we saw with Peyton Manning, what we saw with Tom Brady, and then a bunch of the guys underneath him, whether it's Phillip Rivers or Ben Roethlisberger's or Drew Brees's, or what we saw all in that time frame, is something that I don't think any NFL fans really saw. Mm-hmm. And honestly, right now, we are getting it with the Patrick Mahomeses, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens of the world. Like, we're starting to see it again with a lot of these, quarterbacks that are currently in the league. And it's something that we have been spoiled as football fans to see. Now, maybe it's because of the rule changes and all that other stuff, but On the flip coin of that, though, when it's bad, it's really bad. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a double-edged sword there for sure. Let's preview these two games. I mean, Baltimore's at home against Kansas City. What are we looking for here, Justin? What do you think in this game here in the AFC Championship game?
Oh, in terms of, like, obviously I'm not getting to a prediction yet, but I mean, Baltimore, like, what can you say is wrong with Baltimore? Like, they're terrific in the pass game whenever they are called to pass. They don't throw the ball a lot, even though it's more than they have in the past. But when they do, it's very effective. When they run the football better than anybody. It's the best rushing offense in all of football. And that's spearheaded by Lamar Jackson. And then we talk about how great Lamar Jackson is in the second play and creating offense. And whether it's teams trying to sit in zone to take away passing options from Lamar, he's still dotting people up. When you decide to pressure him, like Houston did last week, what was it, like 75% of dropbacks or something they brought in the blitz, which is like unheard of. But Lamar Jackson basically made them look silly for blitzing him. So you can't, I mean, blitzing him was typically a way of stopping him. You can't stop him when you blitz him. You can't stop him when you sit back in zone. And then even when Baltimore had issues in the first half and wasn't necessarily in sync and things like that, the ability to then go into the locker room and come back and make adjustments and go out and do what they did to Houston, that's championship pedigree. And then you look at then what they have defensively. It's one of the best defenses in football. I know I mentioned it last week. I mean, they've given up through the air 18 passing touchdowns, which is one of the fewest in the NFL. And they combine that with 18 interceptions or 18 turnovers in the air. So they're extremely good defensively. They've got a good pass rush. Their secondary is overall pretty good. Marlon Humphrey, I saw today, was questionable, so I assume he would still play, but they didn't necessarily say what the injury was, or at least I didn't see it on ESPN.
It was his calf.
Calf. Okay. So that could potentially affect how he plays if the calf still lingers. Obviously, we're recording this on a Tuesday and we're live on a Tuesday. So we're still plenty of days out from it. But I look at this Baltimore team and they're the complete package, like we've said all year. And then you move on to Kansas City. Like Kansas City, the only thing I guess you can say Baltimore gives up more than anything is Baltimore can be hit big in the run game. And Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are going to be needed to do that. And then being able to get Rashee Rice back involved in screen plays and perimeter plays, especially if Marlon Humphrey is injured and it affects how he plays. Kansas City, I've been saying this a while. Kansas City obviously had plenty of issues with turnovers, drops, penalties, and all those other kind of things for the longest time, lack of discipline, lack of focus. And then we just kind of felt like we needed to see a clean month or a clean week out of Kansas City, and you're starting to see that. Patrick Mahomes has flipped the script, and number 15 is playing like playoff Patrick. And this defense was what was carrying them anyway. And so I think this is two juggernauts that I think are starting to play well at the very, very right time. And I keep going back and forth with this. So I'll leave my prediction to when we really have to give predictions, but I think, obviously, if Kansas City can run the ball, protect the football, and Patrick Mahomes can be Patrick Mahomes, I think there's a true game here. But the biggest question mark is you're going to have to see L'Jarius Sneed, who's going to follow Zay Flowers. You can't give up big plays to the tight end. The linebacking crew needs to hold the tight ends back. And if you can do that and rally to the football whenever Lamar does take off, maybe you've got a chance. But I mean, Baltimore's just they're Baltimore. Like, it's going to be hard to stop them.
Curtis, you got anything to add to that? I mean,
yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play perfect. You've seen what happens with Mahomes against a strong defense, like when the Raiders played them on Christmas Day, and they caused those two turnovers in a row, and that was the difference maker in the game. I think Mahomes is going to have to be perfect. I know that's, it's saying a lot. It's not saying a lot with Mahomes how great he is, but I mean, he's not able to make any mistakes or turnovers, I think, against this defense. I really think that the Ravens are in a good position, especially if Andrews is going to come back. I do like how likely it has just been exposing teams. He's like almost like a Kyle Pitts out there. He's like a wide receiver as a tight end. I think
better.
I think that they should keep exposing him. I think that like you said about Snead, I think he's going to shut down Zay Flowers, but that's going to leave Aguilar and OBJ, to move around the field. I really think it's a good matchup. I think Dalvin Cook looked really, really good running the ball last week. I mean, it was a shame that we didn't use him on the Jets, but hey, more power to him. And I really, really think that this game is going to come down to who wins a turnover battle. And I really think that the Chiefs are going to have to play a perfect game, because they're not going to be able to play that pretty Chiefs football that they've been accustomed to playing these years against a team like Baltimore, and especially in Baltimore against a defense like that causes turnovers at the rate they do. I really think this is going to be a good game.
I am going to say something that may surprise some people here. I personally think that this game could end up almost similar to the Baltimore-Houston game from last week. Because here's the reason why. You're mentioning Kansas City, Justin, about Kansas City hitting their stride and playing well at this moment in time. But let's take a look at this real quick, right? They struggled going into the playoffs. We talked about a lot of their issues, right? The wide receivers still haven't really shown up outside of Rice, so they don't have any help. And even Rashee Rice hasn't been big enough game changer. He's there and he's making plays, but he's not a game changer.
Yeah.
They played Miami in negative, 12, 50-degree weather, whatever it was, in a game that was definitely going to benefit whichever defense was better. They played a Buffalo team that had 3 healthy linebackers and 2 healthy safeties, or 3 healthy safeties. And it allowed Travis Kelce to run wild. Like, don't get me wrong, Kelce's a great player and he's going to get his no matter what. Baltimore doesn't have those issues. Baltimore in the middle of the field is significantly different than the Buffalo Bills were last week. And the Bills almost won that game, right? So it's, to me, not a situation where what is Kansas City's strengths, right? And what is Baltimore's strengths? And everything that has Baltimore's strengths plays in their favor against Kansas City's strengths in this particular Kansas City team, right? The Kansas City defense is obviously the difference maker, but if that Baltimore defense finds a way to slow that offense down, that defense is going to get very, 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 very tired. Yeah. And what happened in that game against Houston? It was the second half. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be as big as a 45-10 victory. That's just, I don't think that Kansas City is too good of a team to let that happen. But I think that we could see something very similar to that, where it's like 17-14 going into the half, or 17 or 14-10 or 13-10 going into the half, and this game ends up being somewhere like 30 something to it has that potential. Yeah, in my opinion, because of Baltimore's strengths play better than Kansas City's strengths on offense. Personally, myself.
Yeah. Well, and I'll mention this too. I think Kansas City's route to victory is obviously 2 things. 15. We all know who that is. And then being able to play ball control with Isaiah Pacheco. Like I kind of mentioned, like the only way to really penetrate this defense of Baltimore is running the football with a physical runner. Mm-hmm. That's what Isaiah Pacheco is. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is maybe starting to catch a little bit of a stride and run a little bit more physical.
And that's what Singletary couldn't do last week.
Yeah. Exactly. And so there's opportunity there. And I can't tell you how many times, because obviously the statistics and playoff statistics, all that point towards Brady. Everybody's talking about Brady with Mahomes. And I guess I'll go there because I'm the quarterback. I'll go there. Patrick Mahomes screams Tom Brady to me in this generation. And how many times have you seen Tom Brady with a lesser team go into an AFC championship or even an NFC championship when he played for Tampa Bay, and you're saying, oh, well, this team isn't very good, but they have 12 and 12 ends up on top. Mm-hmm. So that's why I keep going back and forth, because I know my brain says Baltimore, but my heart says Kansas City because of 15. And the way these defenses have played, I think Baltimore's too much for them. But I could still see a way where maybe Baltimore stumbles in the first half like they did. This game stays close and maybe a defensive struggle, and Lamar's got to be what Lamar is now, or hopefully Lamar is what Lamar is now and goes and pulls one off. Or if not, how many times have we seen Patrick Mahomes do that?
You can't discredit Mahomes. I mean, I'm not discrediting him by any means. You can't count him out. Like, I'm not doing any of that.
No, you're not. I'm just mentioning it for the viewers. So.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I just, for me, like, just looking at it from a certain standpoint, it just makes me wonder from a team perspective if this might be one of those seasons that Brady didn't make it to the Super Bowl. You know, like, he got to the AFC Championship game and faltered or whatever it may be. Well, I'm just wondering if maybe that might be this situation here.
And one other thing, too, offensively, something we didn't necessarily see out of Kansas City until this last week is in being able to get Travis Kelce involved. And like you said, he ran wild. Part of the reason why he ran wild is they used him differently compared to how they have in the past. Like he lined up in 7 different positions or something like that. Like he even came out of the backfield, like being able to not necessarily be too cute, but to be innovative and creative and trying to get Kelce the ball and getting Rashee Rice the ball, and then still playing ball control in a way, kind of playing like how San Francisco plays, play ball control with Pacheco and all that. That's your recipe for success. And then trust Patrick Mahomes whenever he needs to make a play. You know he's going to make a play and breaking a sack and getting scampering for 12 yards when he looks like he's running at 7 miles an hour and he's really running at 22. Like it's just what Patrick Mahomes does. And, and I could see that. I could see it happening. But obviously I'd lean still towards Baltimore.
Yeah, it's just middle of that field, like Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton.
Those guys are some hitters.
Kelce likes to feed, or a whole different animal than AJ Klein, Tyrell Dotson, and the fact that I even remembered both their names. And I don't even know who was playing safety back there to start for Buffalo this past weekend, because I don't think Micah Hyde was there. Not Micah Hyde. Is it Hyde? No. Is it Taylor Rapp that was there?
I think Taylor Rapp.
Taylor Rapp. Yeah. So I mean, like, just a different animal to me. Like, not an animal I'd like to see. So I'm glad I don't play for Kansas City, because that's going to be it might be a rough day. The NFC side, everybody's favorite team, or everybody's team that they're cheering for, I should say, at least this year, unless you play in the NFC North. The Detroit Lions, they're traveling to San Francisco. I would have liked to have seen them have a home game, but whatever. Curtis, what's your take on this one? Does Detroit stand a chance? We've talked all year about Detroit. We've been beating them up. I mean, we've been pumping them up. So
yeah, I think of course they stand a chance. The thing about Detroit is they were tested earlier in the year. They had that tough loss to Green Bay. The Ravens absolutely whooped the crap out of them. But the thing is that Detroit is a tough team, and they played tough recently. They showed a lot of grit. And the thing is about the 49ers, just like the Cowboys, is that they can be ran on. And Aaron Jones ran for 100 yards, 6 yards a carry last week. The thing about the Detroit Lions is I think they have probably the best run blocking offensive line in all of football. And they have this running back named David Montgomery that he likes to play. I think that there's like a stat that shows like David Montgomery is like one of like the most, he gains like the most yards in the NFL the past 4 years he's been in, I think, in December on. Like all of a sudden at the end of the year, it's like everybody starts slowing down, and David Montgomery's like, nah, now I'm playing tough, and he runs tough, like how they said Pacheco runs, and he runs like he bites people. That's what they said. David Montgomery, he runs physical, and I think that San Francisco, which they do have a very stout defense, I think if Detroit plays their style of game and they're able to control that line of scrimmage and they're able to control the tempo of that game, I think David Montgomery is going to tire them out, and then Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a 12 to 15 yard run here and there, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown could be open for a 20-yard gain. It can happen, and Jameson Williams could be open for a break a 60-yard touchdown. I mean, this offense is scary. Jared Goff, I know people are bringing up he's 0-5 against his last 5 games against the San Francisco 49ers, but again, it's not Jared Goff playing against the 49ers himself. It's Jared Goff and his teammates. So I really think Detroit has they have a more than a fighter's chance. They have a legit chance to beat the 49ers, but it has to go their way because the 49ers can dictate the line of scrimmage as well because they have another great running back and another great offensive line, and they have a quarterback that minimizes mistakes, especially when his offensive line is blocking for him, and he's not being pressured. I mean, he's probably the highest QB rating this year. I mean, when he's not pressured, he just delivers dimes to these receivers. So, and Kittle can also catch a 60-yard touchdown. So, I really think it's going to be a really good game, and I think I'm going for Detroit, but just because they never won a Super Bowl, let's let a new guy in there. But and I really think that David Montgomery could take over this game.
Yeah, Detroit to me. First of all, I'm going to say Brown needs to get the credit that he needs to get. Like, I mean, let's be honest. He's the most disrespected wide receiver probably in all of the NFL, and it's absurd to me. This guy's great. I mean, I love watching him play. He's one of my favorite players watching in the NFL. This game, I'm glad you mentioned the Baltimore game, Curtis, because I feel like that game kind of put things in perspective for Detroit, because I don't feel like this is the same team that lost to that Baltimore Ravens team in the middle of the year. Krish has joined us here. Krish, will jump to you real quick because Justin looks like he wants to say something, but I'm going to make him wait a little bit longer. That Ravens game to me, I don't know how you feel about it, Krish, but that Ravens game to me, it almost was like a light switch coming out of that game for Detroit, where they have just progressively gotten grittier, tougher. They still give up the big plays on defense, but once you get to a certain point inside that red zone or inside that 25 yards, it's almost like it's a whole different defense suddenly, and that's been the difference that's led to Detroit to get to this point. What are your thoughts on this Detroit-San Francisco game?
Well, first off, I want to congratulate Justin for finally getting on the field after a year. It was good to watch you ball out. I can't wait to watch the full game. But overall, I mean, I think Detroit with Debo out, that's going to be huge. I'm shocked Debo was ruled out this, early in the week. His injury must be pretty severe. I don't know exactly what he hurt, but that's really unfortunate.
Well,
I
can butt in real quick and give you some information on that. So Kyle Shanahan has said it's a very similar stinger type injury to what he had in week 6 that then he missed 2 weeks for, which started the 3-week loss.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's essentially the same injury.
Yeah, so he re-aggravated it. I mean, I wanted to see Debo and C.J. Gardner-Johnson so bad. Like, I was so excited to see that matchup. That's one of the few matchups I've been waiting to see. But, Detroit has so much momentum going into this game, besides the fact they're going up to San Francisco. I got Detroit winning this game. It's going to be a 25-23. That's my score prediction. I think Purdy is going to be under a lot of pressure. By that pass rush, because that Detroit pass rush is so underrated. So,
Aiden Hutchinson and Trent Williams is going to be a key matchup. Justin, let's come to you real quick for your preview here, and then we'll jump into your quarterback rankings for last week.
Well, before I even preview the game, let me ask Krish this. Is this 25-23 score going to be a scoregami or no?
I want to say there was a 25-23 score late last year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not up to date on the whole scoregami stuff, so I know you the man will be. That's probably why you're going for it. But no, I think kind of piggybacking off of kind of what Curtis was saying, I'm going to take it a little bit different. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back that can probably have the biggest game, and I'll kind of explain why. So you look at San Francisco defensively, and you see obviously how Aaron Jones was able to run rabid on that defense. What was he running rabid with? It was outside zones, it's sweeps, it's stretches, it's getting the ball to him on swings or arrows or flats and things like that and letting him go to work. It was pushing the perimeters outside the tackles there. And then obviously then being able to cut back and run back in the middle of the field, things like that with misdirection. So Jahmyr Gibbs is the same type of athletic freak that can do the exact same thing. David Montgomery is even though he's a great pass catcher, and he is someone who gets a lot of yards after contact, things like that. He's kind of the more explosive in between the tackles type runner. And with San Francisco being fairly decent up front in the front seven, especially their linebacker core is amazing. Probably only beat probably by Baltimore. You look at them and you're like, all right, for Detroit to be able to do that, one thing they do very well is running outside the tackles. So that fits into what Detroit wants to do. And then obviously the linebacking core that I just kind of mentioned with San Francisco is very good. They get in there and stop the run. But if you're forcing them wider and wider to try to respect and protect the outsides, that is making them susceptible to play action fakes, which force them up, which then opened up the middle of the field for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been so good at that. Jared Goff's one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFL in play action. So a lot of these things kind of fit into, if Detroit can do what they typically do well, there's a chance that they can hang around in this game and truly take it to San Francisco. Obviously, you look then offensively for San Francisco versus the Detroit defense. I mean, Detroit is amazing at stopping the run. What is San Francisco going to want to do? They're going to want to run the ball with CMC. And then obviously they don't have Deebo Samuel in this game, so there's not a different kind of change of pace, get the ball outside in the run game type there, unless you want to use Brandon Ayuk to do that or find other creative ways to get CMC involved there. But it's going to end. But, Lions defensively, Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, he's going to stack the box because he has seen what Brock Purdy has done with Baltimore whenever they stack the box and brought pressure. So being able to seal off edges and get McCaffrey loose on the outside, or being able to keep Max Protect there to not allow the pressure to get to Purdy and things like that is going to be key. I mean, this Detroit Lions defense is playing even better. Like, I know at one point I talked about their defense being Swiss cheese. They're not necessarily Swiss cheese anymore, but obviously big plays can still be had there. And it's just about kind of limiting big plays because they're going to happen at San Francisco. It's the Kyle Shanahan style of offense. It's going to pop open big plays. But I mean, Detroit's got a legitimate shot in this game. I don't think people that say this is going to be a blowout or something like that. No, I think this is probably going to be the better of. I mean, I think both of these games are going to be very good. I think one's the defensive struggle, one's kind of more the offensive showcase, but not necessarily a 38-35 showcase. I mean, this game, I'm probably more excited than the AFC Championship game for this one, but I'm also biased because I'm an NFC guy. So I don't know. I mean, the biggest X factor here, I still think, is Brock Purdy. We look at what happened last week, the little bit of a lack of confidence at times during drives. He didn't have conviction on some throws. Again, a lot of that is the weather and the ball type things that we've seen. Obviously, the whole rubbing the pants in the middle of a play to kind of dry off the hand. But he flipped the switch, and I'm not necessarily worried about that. So if I'm talking to Brock Purdy, I'm just saying, Brock Purdy, be you. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Play your game. You've been amazing whenever you have been called on to make plays. Trust yourself to make plays. And just keep this offense in center, and Jared Goff will be doing the same thing. So I think this is going to be one of those chess match type games of whoever out chess matches the other is probably going to end up being the winner. So I guess we'll get on to predictions or whatever after my list, but or if I'm just throwing predictions in, I'll go ahead and say.
You're just going to throw it in? Okay.
Yeah, I'll throw out that. Okay, you want to do it later?
Well, I was just going to do a quick run later on.
Oh, okay, then I'll save it for that because I might change.
You look like I was going to say you looked like you were on the fence. So I want to give you a little more time.
But see, that's the thing. I've been on the fence for both of these games, to be completely honest with you.
Well, I'm gonna make you make a decision in a little bit, so you just be prepared for that.
Anyway,
right?
Let's go to the quarterback list.
Perfect segue into the QB list.
There's a lot of things to take into account when you talk about being viewed as a top 5 quarterback. It's not a laundry list. This is a list that it has to be taken very seriously.
Well, it is divisional round, and there's no longer 5 quarterbacks to rank. So we're no longer doing top 5, so I'll edit in the little X over the 5 and make it a 3 or something like that later. But I'm going to go ahead and do my top 3 quarterbacks of the division. Top 3 quarterbacks of the divisional round. But I will give one guy his flowers as an honorable mention. So let me start off with him. Just being beat out, and this might be a little bit of a surprise, But my honorable mention for this week is Jared Goff. Jared Goff doesn't make my top 3. But you'll hear a little bit of an explanation to that here in just a second. But let's get on to the 3 guys that I thought played really good quarterback play here in the divisional round. So starting off at my number 3 quarterback, number 3, Josh Allen. Josh Allen had an 86.1 QBR, 26 of 39 for 186 yards, a touchdown in the air, and then another 12 carries for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Despite the key drops and on big plays and missed kicks, Josh Allen carried this Bills team. I mean, we talked about it earlier. If you add in 2 or 3 of those catches that Stephon Diggs either flat out dropped, or the play that, to Shakir that he could have made, or even the other pass that was then ruled incomplete, there's an extra probably 120 yards right there just on those 3 completions, and makes the completion percentage and stuff look better. Obviously, QBR jumps up even higher. Josh Allen was one of those guys that the Bills offense runs through him. It is what Josh Allen does with this team. He carried this team. Quarterback play was tremendous out of him. He was very physical in the run game, made plays there, made plays with his arm. I think he played almost a flawless game and was the second best guy on that field the entire game. And if anyone wants to go blame Josh Allen for this loss, you can go debate me in the comments, because there's no point of saying Josh Allen deserves to lose that game because of his performance. So he just didn't have playmakers the way another quarterback on this list did. But Josh Allen, for that reason, still played very, very well and winds up number 3 on my list. And I guess you can say there's a loss tax there, and that's why he's number 3. But moving on to number 2, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a 121.8 QBR, 16 of 22 for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air, 11 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Similar to Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson does it all for Baltimore. I mean, he carried the lead in the Ravens run game, which I believe it was 3 games now in his playoff history that he's run over 100 yards, which is now NFL history for the most times the quarterback has had 100-plus yard games in the postseason. So he's doing it on the ground, but he's also doing it in the air. You saw the mistakes in the first half kind of compound. You see missed Isaiah Likely, not necessarily putting enough loft on it. Isaiah Likely saying, hey, put it up, big man. And Lamar Jackson's like, hey, I got you. And then he comes back and does the exact same thing later and delivers a nice little lob right over to Isaiah Likely for a touchdown that helps him continue to push things out later. I mean, Lamar Jackson was almost perfect in the passing game. He's making great decisions. The adjustments that they make at halftime is helping him out. His ability to move and be explosive in the ground game and continue to make plays in the second play is going to help continue to push Baltimore on the Super Bowl chase. And it's similar to Josh Allen. This Baltimore offense does or will go wherever Lamar Jackson takes them. And Lamar Jackson is the undisputed MVP and is definitely the undisputed MVP of this Ravens team in this playoff. And Lamar Jackson, another great performance, shooing off a lot of the old narrative of him and finally coming out and having a great showing in the playoffs. And that's why he's my number 2 quarterback this week. But my number 1 quarterback this week is the Tom Brady of them all. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had a 131.6 QBR, 17 of 23 for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then he also had 6 carries for an additional 19 yards on the ground. I mention those because Patrick Mahomes is playoff Patrick. You can never doubt 15, just like you can never doubt 12 whenever Tom Brady was playing. He makes plays in the run game. Even if it's a 12-yard scamper on a 3rd down and 11 that looks like he's the slowest turtle in the world, but then you see the data stats later where he's running at 22, 23 miles an hour. The dude makes plays whenever his number's called upon, and the biggest moments and the brightest lights, Patrick Mahomes makes plays. He had receivers making plays, being able to have Travis Kelce in the game there to make a bunch of plays for him. He delivered strikes to MVS. And he was flat out perfect this entire game. So Patrick Mahomes, you can never doubt him in the postseason. If there's a game to be won, Patrick Mahomes is a gamer. He's about to go out and deliver his best performances, and it's playoff Patrick time. So if you've got 15 on your sideline, you can never doubt 15, and you've always got a chance to win. So Patrick Mahomes, almost perfect performance in the divisional round this week, and that is why he is my number 1 quarterback for the divisional round of this top 3 list. So if you like this list, want to go debate why Jared Goff deserves to be in there over Josh Allen, or maybe even a Brock Purdy mention or anything like that, go ahead and debate me in the comments. And make sure you go leave a like and subscribe to all this great stuff we're doing over here. And hey, that's the quarterback list for the divisional round.
A couple news items we're going to jump into real quick. Brian Callahan, former offensive coordinator of the Bengals, now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I like the hiring personally. Don't know if you guys want to say any words on that or not. I don't know if it's a big splash or whatnot, but it might be exactly what this team needs for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a underrated signing for sure. I mean, you look at what Cincinnati's done with Burrow. There's maybe some magic in the bottle there. I don't know too much about him in general, but obviously there's been a lot of success there, and you have a guy like Will Levis and who can sit and take up all that. So I think it's one of the sneaky hires, because obviously you have Slowick and a couple like Ben Johnson and a lot of the other coordinators that are the hot names. But it could be one of those sneaky hires.
Yeah. I don't think Slowick's quite ready just yet. I think one more year might be good for him at the offensive coordinator position. But then again, John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator. Zach Taylor was a quarterback coach. So, you just never know what happens with that. Tom Tescalo, is that it?
Yeah, the Chargers GM.
The former Chargers GM.
Yeah, former Chargers GM.
Looks like he's going to be the Raiders GM. Weird hiring.
Very.
This kind of reminds me of this is going to open a wound for you, Curtis. I'm sorry, but it kind of reminds me of when the Jets decided to hire what's his name, Mr. Googly Eyes there from Miami.
Oh, Adam Gase.
Oh yeah, Adam Gase, that dude. Yeah, the dude that wrote Peyton Manning's coattails for his entire career.
The QB whisperer, they called him.
Oh yeah. It's weird. I touched a little bit on the Chargers, like, whole cap situation, their issues that they have going on over there. Khalil Mack, huge contract, underperformed for the most part. Had a good year this year. Injuries played a part in it. Derwin James paid like a top safety. Injuries have kind of derailed his career a little bit. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are $67 million on the books next year. Drafted Kenneth Murray, who really hasn't done much. Drafted Quentin Johnson, which had one of the worst rookie performances for any wide receiver, especially in this class. Drafted Justin Herbert, which might be the best thing that he did. Traded for J.C. Jackson just to turn around and cut him. So questionable. Like, I don't know, like, what the Raiders are looking at, and it's weird because I think they made the right move by getting Antonio Pierce, and this franchise looks like it's heading in the right direction. But now you have to be like, now I got to pump the brakes a little bit because I just don't know what this is going to do. Like, what are your thoughts, Curtis, on that? It just seems like a very weird hiring overall.
It's funny because you're going from a division rival, and I don't want to say it's cahoots, but you know that the Chargers they're the most over-capped team going into the offseason. They're like $85 million over the cap. Yeah. And the GM is like, hey, it's somebody else's problem. I'm leaving.
Well, he got fired. He got fired.
Division rival.
Yeah.
It's weird. You don't see it. You don't see it. It's just something that's out of the norm. So it's very weird, like you said. And I mean, obviously he is keen on finding talent because Mike Williams is talented. He's just always hurt.
Well, but it's the contracts though.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Like, Kenneth Murray will probably be off the books next year for the Chargers. Khalil Mack will probably be off the books next year. They're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do with Keenan Allen, who might be gone next year, even though he's a huge cap hit and dead cap money.
Yeah.
Mike
Williams is a free agent.
No, they extended Mike Williams. They did. Okay. Yeah.
The things I'm hearing.
Cap hit too.
Yeah, and the things I'm hearing with a bunch of different Chargers type media stuff is Mike Williams, Khalil Mack, and one other player are probably the three likely cuts. And then maybe the trade of Keenan Allen this offseason.
Yeah, and Mike Williams may get cut, but he's a huge cap hit as well.
Yeah. But I think you still save $20 million and you incur like a $12 million a penalty or something like that. Yeah.
It just it's the way the team's built, and what's even funnier or more ironic or whatever is the last game that Tom was the GM for the Chargers came. He got fired after the Raiders smacked 63 on him, and he was fired the next day. So it's just I don't know. It's just a strange hire.
You get beat by him, join him.
Yeah, if you can't beat him, join him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, did you hear anything about? They're talking about McCray is looking for another GM job and leaving the Cowboys.
So a lot of the things that I've been hearing is with the rumors, and nothing has been confirmed about that from what I understand. He has taken or has expressed interest, I guess, inside inner circles. I don't know if he's taken any interviews or not. I'm not really sure what I don't know. It kind of came out of left field for me. I didn't expect it, I guess, more than anything. So, Ron Rivera was interviewed for the defensive coordinator job for the Eagles. They let go of offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, who for some reason got a head coaching interview with the team. I don't remember who it was. I say weird because
probably Atlanta, because Atlanta's interviewing everybody once or twice.
It could be Atlanta actually, because but I felt it was kind of a weird choice because not that the Eagles were awful by any means, but they weren't good down the stretch, especially. As well. So just a couple news items there to throw out for anybody as well. And I feel like the Bears need to make a decision sooner rather than later.
They do, but they won't. They'll wait till the closest part of the draft possible.
I just think it's a disservice to Fields. He's kind of a lame duck quarterback right now. He's just sitting there what am I going to do?
When have they ever done right by their quarterback?
Well, this is true.
In Chicago.
It's probably the reason why they've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Justin Fields already is number 7 on that list or some shit. Number 6 on that list.
It's like you look at their receiving yard leaders of all time. It's 5,000 yards is the top guy.
DJ Moore is 5th already all time.
Yeah,
he's been there for 1 year.
Yep.
He's been there for 1 year and he's already 5th all time on that list. It's crazy. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Caleb Williams, hey, you can go try to beat out Fields and be 4th on the list.
You know, I will sit here and tell you right now that there's a lot of concerns with me with Caleb Williams.
Oh, there's a lot of concerns with me too. But I already know that if they let go of Fields, that's where they're going.
Well, yeah. Well, but I think that they have to. I don't think that franchise can afford passing up on Caleb Williams. I don't think it's the right decision. But I don't think they can afford passing up on him, especially with all the hype surrounding him.
It's the Eagles drafting McNabb when everybody wanted Ricky Williams kind of scenario. If they draft anybody except for Caleb Williams, the Chicago fans are gonna boo him. They're gonna boo him, and you know what I mean. That's just how it is, man. They want who they want, even though the GM's trying to make the best decision for the franchise. But. It sucks. It just sucks because nobody should be booed on draft night. You know what I mean? But it's gonna happen if they don't get Caleb Williams. I can see it.
It's definitely gonna be a tough for sure. With that, Adam Peters, if you're watching, which I'm pretty sure you're not, but I hope you are. For Washington, the new GM over there, make a trade for Fields and then draft Marvin Harrison Jr. too. Thank you. Please do. Honestly, I think Sam Howell's fine in Washington. Obviously, they're going to be the key spot at number 2 here. And we'll have a draft special when we get closer to the draft and whatnot. But just thinking hypothetically off the top here, it sounds like New England is also going to be moving in a different direction as well at the quarterback position. Gerard Mayo did come out this past week and expressed wanting to keep Mac Jones, though, because he wants to rebuild his confidence before he lets him go, or that's how it sounded anyways. It sounded like that was implied. I don't think drafting a quarterback and making him the starter or bringing him in is going to do that, per se.
Thoughts and opinions on that.
But that's what it sounded like he wanted to do. Well, go ahead, Justin. I brought it up real quick. You're more than welcome to bring it up real quick. These top 3 picks here are 3 franchises that Washington feels like they're moving in the right direction, even though they have the 2nd overall pick, which is very weird to say.
Yep.
Chicago is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they're not even sure if they're going to be able to move, which direction they're going to be able to move in. And then you have New England, who just feels like they're kind of floundering, like they're a fish out of water. And to me, that's Belichick, the GM's fault, not Belichick, the coach. And Gerard Mayo, I think, is going to be a good hire because he's been in the system and he's been there, so he knows what, everything. Everybody that's there knows what to expect. But it still kind of feels like a grasping for straws-esque type hire.
Yeah.
Love Gerard Mayo, and maybe he's Dan Campbell. Maybe he turns into like a Dan Campbell type player, coach. Who knows? But what are your thoughts on that? Because I just feel like these top three teams are all in like different areas in where they're building. I guess.
And that's what makes this offseason so exciting, because there's a lot of teams that can go one of two directions or one of three directions, really, depending on what they decide or what Chicago decides to do at the top of the draft. Because you have Washington that's sitting there that could say, hey, we've got Sam Howell. We like what he's done. We can coach him up to try to force the ball out of his hands a little quicker and use that to draft an offensive tackle or draft a receiver or draft something to go help him. Or they could just say, screw you, Sam Howell, and let's go draft a quarterback and reset and start over. But then Chicago can do the same thing with Fields. Chicago can do the same thing with Drake May or Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or whatever quarterback they deem is their quote unquote guy. And then I think New England, we all know, is going to go quarterback. And who knows really what they're thinking. Obviously, Gerard Mayo's there now. What does Gerard Mayo think about the quarterbacks in this class as compared to what New England typically would look at for quarterbacks? Who knows? And what value will they see in what Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams could potentially provide for them? And what can they do to go there? Now, the whole thing of the Mac Jones situation, obviously I've got a little bit of personal touch and connection with Mac, so I know the person. So at least when I'm talking about it, I at least know the character of the person. I don't think this is a good move for him. And I don't think it's taking care of the player in the best interest. And in reality, yes, it may look on the surface saying, hey, we care about him still and what he's done for our franchise and what he was supposed to be and what he hasn't been. So we want to try to build his confidence back up before he leaves. At this point, I think the best thing for him is to cut him loose, send him to a place like San Francisco with Sam Darnold coming off contract, whatever. Go to a place where he's wanted. Yes, it's not going to be the starting role unless it's a terrible team that might want to have a stopgap kind of guy. But his best thing is to go to a place where there's the quote-unquote quarterback whisperers that run offenses that can build some confidence in you and things like that. I think just being in a situation where you're supposedly still probably competing with then a top draft pick for a spot, and then you're already being told we want to keep you just to rebuild your confidence to send you off somewhere else. I think that would then just create more issues for Mac Jones mentally. Even if it fixes the mental wiring stuff that I've seen was the problem with Mac this year, with processing things differently than he ever has. That part may get fixed, especially if you get an offensive-minded coach and stuff there that can kind of help develop that. But I think at this point you cut your losses if you're New England, so you don't have to put the rookie quarterback in a situation to say, okay, now you have competition straight up the gut there for your spot, and or you bring another veteran in or whatever to where the fans are hyped for the veteran to go be the guy, but then still hyped for the rookie. And there's a lot better ways to go about it that is better for the player and it's better for the organization in general. And keeping Mac around when it looks like it's kind of already damaged goods and it's gone is not the best thing. It's not the best thing.
Well, and just to clarify, he didn't come out and straight out and say that that's what it was. It was just, it sounded very implied when he was asked about it. It sounded like that was possibly what was going to be the approach. I don't know if that's actually going to be the approach. I do want to mention real quick some trade targets, especially at this quarterback position, because obviously QBs always draw a lot of attention. We spend a lot of time talking about them. I feel like there's going to be some some big moves made from some certain teams this year. There's going to be some quality guys that are going to be out there. Trey Lance and Justin Fields are probably the two biggest trade target, like at least in my opinion, that are going to be kind of closely watched in this situation, because I don't think Dallas made the move to trade for Trey Lance just to let him sit forever. Like, I feel like that they may have traded him for him to try to see if they can move him again. I don't know what they're going to get for him, but he never got a fair shake in San Francisco. There's got to be a GM out there somewhere that's going to look at him and go, maybe. The reason I bring up Trey Lance is because Adam Peters was the guy who took over San Francisco when San Francisco had the second pick and the most cap space, and turned that franchise around to he helped. I mean, obviously it takes a large team, but he helped. Washington may be a spot in a rare interdivision trade that could happen where they may reach out for Trey Lance. I mean, it's outside the realm of possibility.
No, it's not. But with an interdivision trade, you're going to have to pay the premium for that player.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and Dallas is going to try to get the absolute most out of it, because what if Trey Lance does develop into what the potential was, and then Dallas
into a rival?
To your rival. So, but obviously, I like it from a Washington perspective, because then you don't have to draft a quarterback. You can go out and get Marvin Harrison at 2 or somebody else, and then you have you got 2 young guys there to go fight for a job. And in a way, it's kind of the whole Matt Flynn, Russell Wilson type kind of scenario where you got 2 semi-young guys fighting for a job, and whoever wins it goes on to play.
Yeah, I just was thinking about it because Adam Peters comes from that situation. Adam Peters was there when they drafted him and made that move,
but at that point too, you probably let Sam Howell battle for it. But your best case scenario is probably then try to, while the iron's hot, still try to sell Sam Howell somewhere else.
I don't know, just a thought process. I mean, obviously Dallas will probably just be like, no, we're not going to make the trade. But I don't know. There's a connection there. There's history, so you never say never, right? It's the NFL.
Yeah. Speaking of trade rumors, I'm hearing that the Chargers are not opposed to shopping around Joey Bosa this year.
Oh, that was the other contract that I wanted to talk about, or the other thing was Joey Bosa. I mean, it's not, and it's hard because, like, obviously it's not Tom's fault, but he does a really good job of drafting players who like to get injured. Like, he really does. Like, Mike Williams, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Kenneth Murray. Like,
he likes looking at the injury rating on Madden and the little draft class, and it's F. Oh, but everything else is A. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
F means fantastic, right?
Yeah.
F means football.
Again, not his fault, out of his control or whatever.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's just funny because it just feels like every year we're talking about the Chargers and their injuries, and it's like the same guys.
Chargers.
Yeah, like it's the same guys every year. Yeah,
it's just like Buffalo Bills and wide right field goals. You know what I mean?
They got. It's funny because somebody was like, well, if they moved the goalpost to the right, then they would have made it. And I said, if they moved the goalpost to the right, he would have missed it left. So, like, it wouldn't have mattered.
I feel bad, man. I like the Buffalo Bills. They don't bother me. It's just they're just cursed.
The one thing about the Buffalo Bills that's hard is the fan base is so, for the most part, they're not like obnoxious, and they're not annoying, and they're not irritating, and
they're good people.
They do things like donate to people. Like who was the quarterback that got hurt on their field? There was a quarterback that got a season-ending injury on their field, like it was week 2, and fans put out, like, it ended up being like almost like $500,000 donated overall to this person's charity. I don't remember what it was, but it was a quarterback that got hurt, and they donated, like, it was like $500K, to this person's charity or whatever, and it was just an injury. It was just a regular football injury, and you hear things like that all the time. So it's hard to, like, really, they're probably just frustrated. They're probably defeated at this point in time.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton, that's right.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, my stepfather is from Rochester. He's a Buffalo Bills fan, and I didn't even text him when the game ended because the game when Tyreek Hill caught that that uh,
oh yeah.
that ladder pass and just ran it in and ended the game. I was like, the Buffalo Bills. Everybody thought they were going to win the game because it was like 30 seconds left, and like Justin said, 15 always gives you a fighting chance. So
Yep.
that was the last time I texted him about football at the end of the game because I just know he's lived his whole life just watching him lose 4 Super Bowls in a row. You know what I mean? It's just.
Well, hey, as a Viking fan too, I'm accustomed to the whole wide right field goal too. So,
Morton Anderson or Gary Anderson?
Gary
Gary Anderson, and then my old Georgia boy Blair Walsh too.
Blair Walsh too, yeah.
I can't that year, man. I remember watching that 15-1 Viking team, and the announcer like jinxed it. They're like, he hasn't missed a field goal all year. Yep.
And funny enough, the year I was born, my 2 favorite teams were in the NFC Championship game facing each other. So
the Dirty Birds.
Yeah,
Dirty Birds.
Well, at least you
just
guys
to be beat by John Elway.
Elway.
Yeah.
At least you guys didn't have Dan Snyder running your franchise for 24 years.
Well, you got a Super Bowl.
I did not get a Super Bowl out of that.
Oh yeah, you did. But your franchise has a Super Bowl in their history.
I've been alive for two of our Super Bowls. Like actually, the one Super Bowl that I remember I was a kid was in the '91 with Mark Rippon. You know, like that the whole Hogs, like the third Super Bowl that Gibbs won. That's the one I really remember. And that year was the year that I really kind of fell in love with the team. Like my papa was a Redskins fan, and my nana was a Cowboys fan. I don't know how that worked out between these two, but it worked out between these two somehow. And for me, it was just that year I fell in love with the Redskins, and that's been my team ever since, as far as that's concerned. Over the Cowboys. It also helps. It was kind of a little bit of a hometown, my hometown team too, so that helps as well. But that was always the way it was as far as that was concerned. So I guess opposites do attract sometimes. I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it. Be a deal breaker. The Bills actually are the third, like out of all football like paraphernalia up here that I see, or gear that I see up here. The Bills are the third most, behind the Giants and the Patriots. So
their fans travel well. They do. They're all over the place. I've seen them in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah.
Well, it's a combination too. It's a combination too because like the Patriots really weren't around for a long time, so a lot of the old like boomers and older generation they love the Giants.
Simpson.
They love the Giants because the Giants were close, and then I think Buffalo was just kind of a lot of if they didn't like the Giants, if
they're anti-New Yorkers, they liked the Bills basically.
Right, pretty much, yeah. So because there's a lot of weird combinations up here. Like everybody thinks that if you're a Cowboys fan, you're a Yankees fan, or if you're a Yankees fan, you're a Cowboys fan, which drives me nuts because I'm a Yankees fan, and I'm
That's how it works in the city. It's Yankees Giants, Mets Jets. I'm a Yankees Jets fan because I don't like the Giants and I don't like the Mets. So
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have anything else, guys. I mean, we can jump into the predictions here. Let's get into the score predictions real quick. The 2 games. The AFC Championship game will start first with Curtis. Obviously, we know Baltimore at home, Kansas City, the second road game ever for Patrick Mahomes. Worked out well in this first one.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about a preview earlier. What's your prediction for this game?
I predict, it's hard because I'm like Justin. I actually, in my head, I really want to say Chiefs win. In my heart, I want Baltimore to win because it's just, but I really think Baltimore. I say Baltimore 30, Chiefs 23. Chiefs 30 to 23, 30-22, somewhere around that. I think Baltimore wins it. I think that in the third quarter, they're just going to be too much for the Chiefs.
Justin, have you made your mind up?
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot. Like you have no choice.
Yeah, no, you're not putting me on the spot. And in reality, I'll probably change this after I've said it. But in my heart of hearts, I'm feeling this is a defensive struggle, although there's probably still offense in this game. I'm going to say this one is a 23-17 touchdown late in the game to put them up. Kansas City wins, 15's back in the Super Bowl.
Wow. Listen to Justin. I think that this game Kansas City has to be careful then. I think that they really do. This is not Miami. This is not Buffalo with the injuries. This is a team that is healthy. This is a team that has looked really good all year. They have a difference maker at quarterback that that Kansas City has seen and they know about. But the run game is going to be the difference, and Baltimore's run game is easily superior to Buffalo's, and we saw what Buffalo did last week. The only thing is I don't think that they have a running back that does what James Cook does. For Buffalo, what Baltimore has, because Keaton Mitchell and J.K. Dobbins are out. They're going to have to find it from somebody, whether that's Lamar or Justice Hill. They'll have to figure it out because Gus the Bus will be fine and Dalvin Cook will be fine, but it's going to be that one difference maker that might go for 12, 13, 14 yards.
Mm-hmm.
This game potentially could get out of hand in the second half. It could. I don't think it will. I'm going to say 27-17. I think it's going to be a 10-point victory for Baltimore. It's going to probably be like a defensive pick six or fumble six that will make it 10 points. But it will be close, but there's potential there. There's a window. I know it's Patrick Mahomes on the other side, but there's potential there. San Francisco at home, Detroit traveling down. These Lions fans are going to travel, I feel like. I really feel like they're going to travel. Curtis, what's your thoughts?
Like we talked about, I feel that the Lions rush offense is going to be overpowering. I think that little thunder and lightning combination of Gibbs and Montgomery is going to make the difference in this game. I feel that if Debo is not in the game, I feel that has to change the defensive mindset of Detroit, and it's also going to change the entire offensive identity of the 49ers. The 49ers are still capable. I want to take Detroit 37-30.
Okay. Quick NBA news. The Milwaukee Bucks fired randomly for some reason. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but they just announced Doc Rivers is going to be the new head coach over there.
Yeah, fired him after 45 games.
Yeah, with an actually good record, but now Doc Rivers is going to be the head coach. Justin? Yeah, I know.
Those are NBA moves. Everything's always lateral. We haven't won enough games. I'll fire the head coach. It was still a winning record. I'll fire him anyway.
Yeah, the record was like 30-19 or something like that. It was crazy. 30-13.
We have Giannis Antetokounmpo. We should be winning every game. All right. Anyway, but anyway, prediction for the NFC Championship game. So
yeah, sorry.
Obviously, I talked a lot about this game, about what Detroit does well versus what San Francisco does well. And the one thing I failed to mention is, as of the injury reports, obviously Frank Ragnow, the center for the Detroit Lions, he played through an injury last week. He now has 2 injuries that he's still questionable for. So he'll probably play through now 2 injuries as opposed to the one, because he got another banged up injury in the game. So he's got the ankle and a sprained ankle and a sprained knee. But then in that game as well, they lost their starting left guard, Jonah Jackson, who tore his meniscus, and he's out or it was a minor tear in the meniscus, and now he's out. So obviously I can hammer home as much as possible that obviously the way to beat San Francisco defensively is having athletic running backs run out in space and run outside the tackles, and then the play action game to try to soak up those, pull those linebackers up to open up the middle of the field, which is what Detroit is so good with. And then you look at San Francisco and being able to try to run the football with CMC. They don't have Deebo Samuel. So obviously it will be a CMC pretty much only attack unless Elijah Mitchell kind of gets involved there. But Detroit's very good at stopping the run. So they're going to need to rely on getting the ball outside to guys like Ayuk, to guys like Kittle working the middle of the field, where those deep safety zones and stuff like that unveil the middle of the field to be worked. Brock Purdy's very good at doing that. Brock Purdy is great at not making mistakes. I think with the weather situation not being a factor, I looked at it earlier. It looks like it's supposed to be like 63 and sunny, like perfect kind of San Francisco day there. So weather shouldn't be an issue. But Detroit has a great way and a creative way of blitzing too, as opposed to others. Like last week, they blitzed their defensive backs more than anybody, and two of their DBs got 2.5 sacks total in the game. So Detroit's going to need to pin their ears back, get to Purdy, create pressure. I think this game is a toss-up in my opinion because of what both teams do well. But I'm going to take the 49ers 30-27 solely because of the offensive line injuries that I think allow San Francisco's pass rush to get to a less mobile Jared Goff compared to a more mobile Brock Purdy to be able to make those one or two plays that he needs to make. Both quarterbacks, I think, will play well. But San Francisco's defense has played bend but don't break. So has Detroit's. I feel like Detroit's will break slightly more than San Francisco's will. And that leads me to the 30-27 win for the 49ers.
This game is going to be very reminiscent of the Green Bay-Dallas game. If Detroit can come out and smack them in the mouth early and make a statement, it may throw San Francisco off just enough. Look for Ben Johnson to put together a short passing game, a lot of swing passes, short screens. Try to get Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown out in the space so they can make some plays. Sam Laporta even. Sam Laporta could be a very key factor in this as well. Their offensive line is definitely banged up, so the best way to combat that rush is to get the ball out of Goff's hands as fast as possible.
Exactly.
I think Ben Johnson is good enough to do that. Now, whether or not the execution is going to be there is going to be the question. Man, my heart wants Detroit so bad. Just to continue the story, man. Just so bad.
Oh, but sometimes stories have to come to an end, Michael.
Hey, you know what we do when that happens is we just stop on the last chapter and just make up our own ending over the course of the
we did this with Houston.
We do it over the course of the next few months, okay? San Francisco, Detroit, Detroit, Cisco. Can I just do that, or is that not a thing? Okay. San Francisco wins 31-30. 1-point game. Oh, my heart breaks when I say that. Come on, Detroit. Just do it. Do it. Just do it. Just get there. Even if you don't win it, just get there. But I do want to say the other thing about this, too, is Goff has the experience here, too.
Yes.
Been in an NFC Championship game, won an NFC Championship game, been to a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy has not. Granted, Purdy got hurt. He got to an NFC Championship game. He got hurt, but he wasn't really able to do what he's supposed to do. So there is a little bit of a difference there. The San Francisco team has been there before. Detroit has not, though. So that's the balance of it. So
well, Goff and Reynolds have.
Well, Reynolds, but Josh Reynolds has also only caught every single one of his touchdowns from one quarterback his entire career. So it's very rare. Weird to say that. But Reynolds has actually been kind of a star for them in this postseason as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's really stepped up on the opposite end of Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I don't know. I think that if Detroit wins, I think that they have a legitimate chance to test Baltimore assuming it's Baltimore that wins on the AFC side. Because they'll have that 2 weeks off heading into the Super Bowl. They can get healthy. Jonah Jackson might still be out, but the center, Laporta's still playing, fairly banged up. It'll give him a chance to get healthy, to get into that. But how crazy would it be if it was Detroit and Kansas City? That was literally the first game of the year.
I think that Detroit and Kansas City. I think Detroit matches up better with Kansas City than I think the 49ers do. You know what I mean? I think the 40, you know what I mean? I don't think that the Chiefs would like to play the Detroit Lions. I don't know.
I think they'd much rather play the cute game against them.
In Detroit, Detroit beat them in week 1 when Detroit wasn't even in full stride.
Yeah.
So, it was an ugly game for the most part, but it was a win, so I don't know, just something to keep an eye on. That would just be crazy. Could you imagine that story being like a complete, like that would be the story, and it's going to be a movie.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a movie anyways, but it's going to be a movie. Like, it's got to be.
Well, we should have read the script at the start of the year. We would have already known.
Oh, haven't you seen the Super Bowl logo? It's already purple and red.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. It's Baltimore and yeah.
Some kind of conspiracy theory. I guess it's been like the last like 5 Super Bowls or something like
Yeah,
that.
the color gave it away, and then obviously the New Orleans colors, I guess, have already come out too. So I can't remember what they were, but they're already saying it was going to be 2 different teams potentially. But hey, I took that purple and red as Minnesota facing Kansas City. Yeah, so I took it that
way. Detroit Lions.
That obviously didn't happen. Kansas City might get there, but no, Vikings were long gone out of it.
Kansas City's going to get there, and then Detroit's going to wear an alternative purple uniform. So,
yes.
Yeah.
In honor of the NFC North, the black and blue division.
Oh God. Things that people come up with. Yeah, I'm all set, guys. I don't think I have anything else here. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on?
No.
That happened. So there's only 2 episodes left, guys. What we're gonna do is we're gonna obviously run the one next week, coming out of the championship games, and then we'll probably run one after the Super Bowl just to close out the Super Bowl, and then we'll do a draft special once we get closer to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming along. 24 episodes in, guys. We'll have 26 by the end. 27 if you include the draft episode, and we'll be back next year, obviously, as well. Hopefully, it will be the same panel, maybe a little bit of some adjustments, but yeah, I mean, it's been a fun ride. So we got 2 more left though. Let's get to that point first. But we'll take a day off. What we'll do is we'll take a week off. I don't care about the Pro Bowl. I mean, I'll watch it, but I don't really care about it. Like, I don't want to get on and discuss it. Like, what I'm going to discuss? Oh, throw. Ooh.
Oh, flag football or that
flag
competition though. That.
Well, I mean, I always like the skills games. Those are always, the key point. But
hey, the dodgeball though, that's my favorite one. Even though I'm a quarterback and I love the quarterback stuff, the dodgeball is fun stuff to watch.
And the Reese's Senior Bowl is also coming up, I think, as well. So keep that in mind for you college fans as well. Yeah, so that's going to do it here. Justin, if you want to take us home, go ahead, my man.
Yeah, so divisional round's over. Episode 24 is over. Obviously, we've got 2 more to go, like Michael said. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe button, bell notification, so you never miss the last couple episodes we got of the season. If you want us to answer some questions about our personal careers or just any NFL questions you have, leave those down in the comments, and we'll definitely get to them or talk about them on the next show. But with that being said, for me, Curtis, Michael, that's the goal line stand for episode 24. See you after the great NFC and AFC championship games.
Yeah.